Imagine you are waking up at 3 a.m. The room is dark, the world is silent, and the only sound you hear is the beating of your own heart. No messages, no notifications, no one wishing you good morning, no one asking how you feel, no one checking if you're okay. And in that silence, a realization slowly settles in. You are alone, not temporarily, not just for now, but truly, deeply alone. And most people are terrified of this moment. They try to escape it. They distract themselves. They drown it out with noise, with entertainment, with other people's voices, anything to avoid sitting with the truth. But this moment is not your enemy. This is the moment your real journey begins. Because when there's no one to lean on, when there's no one to save you, when every bridge behind you feels burned and the people you once trusted have drifted away, something rare happens. You finally meet the most important person in your life, yourself. Not the version you show to others, not the version that performs, pleases, or pretends, but the raw version, the one that remains when there is no audience. Today, this is the story we begin. Not a story about quick fixes or empty motivation, but a story about transformation. About how the most painful loneliness can become the most powerful force in your life. You will learn how to survive the moment when no one is around. And more than that, how to use this time to build something inside you that cannot be taken away. We need to start with a truth that many people avoid for their entire lives. No one is coming to save you. Read that again. No one is coming. Not your family, not your friends, not a mentor who suddenly sees your potential, not a stranger who appears at the perfect moment. The world does not owe you understanding. It does not owe you fairness. It does not owe you time. Life will not pause while you gather your strength. Time will continue to move forward. People will continue living their lives. Opportunities will pass whether you are ready or not. This sounds harsh, but it is also liberating. Because once you accept this truth, you stop waiting. And waiting is where most lives quietly die. Waiting for motivation, waiting for support, waiting for conditions to improve, waiting for someone else to make it easier. Acceptance is not surrender. Acceptance is clarity. IT is the moment when you stop wasting energy on hope that depends on others, and you redirect that energy inward. When you accept that you are alone, something powerful shifts inside you. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, and you become the architect of your own life. A victim waits to be rescued. A creator builds a way out. Think about it. If you truly believed that no one was coming, what would you do differently? You would stop complaining. You would stop explaining yourself. You would stop rehearsing stories of injustice in your head. You would act. Imagine someone drowning. They can scream. They can thrash and panic. They can wait for someone to throw them a lifeline. Or they can gather every ounce of strength they have and start swimming. Yes, it's terrifying. Yes, it hurts. Yes, they are exhausted, but if they reach the shore on their own, something changes forever. They don't just survive. They learn, in the deepest part of themselves, that they are capable, that knowledge cannot be taken away. Most people never reach this point. They remain stuck in denial. They tell themselves, this is temporary. Someone will help. Things will work out on their own. Weeks become months. Months become years. Resentment grows. They begin to blame the world. They blame people. They blame circumstances. And that resentment slowly poisons them from the inside, turning them bitter, cynical, and powerless. But there is another path, the path of acceptance. When you accept your situation fully, without excuses, without illusions, you gain strength most people never touch. You stop depending on the mercy of fate. You stop depending on the goodwill of others. You realize something profound. Everything you need to begin is already within you. Every person who rose from nothing started here. Not with confidence, not with resources, but with acceptance. They accepted where they were, they accepted what they had, and they decided to work with reality instead of fighting it. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It means responsibility. It means saying, "This is my life, and no one else is responsible for it." When you accept this, you stop searching for someone to blame and start searching for solutions. You stop waiting for perfect conditions and start acting within imperfect ones. You stop looking backward with regret and start looking forward with intention. There is an old story about a man who fell into a deep pit. He screamed for help. No one came. He screamed again. Still nothing. Days passed. His strength faded. And eventually, he understood something simple and terrifying. Either he would find a way out himself, or he would die there. That realization changed everything. He stopped screaming. He stopped wasting energy. He began studying the walls, looking for cracks, for ledges, for anything he could use. And he escaped. Not because he suddenly became stronger, but because his thinking changed. He accepted that salvation depended on him. So stop waiting. Stop hoping for a miracle. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Face the truth. You are alone, and that is not a weakness. That is an advantage. Because when you don't depend on anyone, you cannot be betrayed. When you don't expect approval, you cannot be disappointed. When responsibility rests fully on you, you gain control. And control is freedom. Accept your situation today, not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready, now. Say it, even if your voice shakes. I am alone, and this is my strength. I do not wait for salvation. I create it. From this moment on, my life is shaped by my choices and my actions. This acceptance will become the foundation of everything that follows. Without it, discipline collapses. Vision fades. Action weakens. With it, you begin to stand on your own feet. And once you do, no one can ever take that away from you. Motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Some days it's there, most days it isn't. And if your progress depends on motivation, your life will remain unstable. This is why discipline matters. Discipline is not intensity. It is consistency. It is the quiet decision to act even when you feel nothing, especially when you feel nothing. Most people wait to feel ready. They wait for confidence. They wait for the right mood. Discipline does not wait. Discipline moves first. Feelings follow later, if they follow at all. Understand this clearly. You will not always feel strong. You will not always feel inspired. You will not always believe in yourself, but you can still act. And action, repeated daily, reshapes identity. Discipline begins the moment you stop negotiating with yourself. Every inner negotiation sounds reasonable. I'll start tomorrow. I've had a long day. I deserve a break. I'll do it when I feel better. These thoughts are not accidents. They are habits, and habits decide lives. Each time you listen to that voice, you teach yourself a lesson. You teach yourself that comfort is more important than growth, that excuses are acceptable, that delay is safe. Over time, this lesson hardens into character. Discipline reverses that process. It teaches you that your word matters, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Real discipline is built in private, not in moments of applause, not when others are impressed, but when the room is empty and the task is boring. That is where strength is forged. Discipline is choosing structure over chaos. Chaos feels natural. Structure feels restrictive. But chaos drains you. Structure frees you. When your actions are structured, you waste less energy deciding what to do. You simply do what is required. Think of discipline as a contract you sign with your future self. Every disciplined action is a message sent forward in time. It says, "I did not abandon you." And every undisciplined action sends a different message. "I chose comfort instead." Those messages accumulate. Eventually, your future self becomes either grateful or resentful. Discipline is not about doing everything. It is about doing the right things, even when they feel small. Wake up at the same time. Show up when you said you would. Finish what you start. These are not dramatic acts. They are quiet ones. But quiet acts repeated daily shape destiny. Most people underestimate the power of boredom. They want excitement. They want progress to feel meaningful every day. Discipline accepts boredom as part of the process. You train even when it's dull. You work even when nothing seems to change. You continue even when progress is invisible. This is where most people quit. Not because it's too hard, but because it's too quiet. No applause, no instant reward. Just repetition. But repetition is how mastery is built. Discipline is also about limits. You cannot do everything. You must choose. Every yes is also a no to something else. If you say yes to distractions, you say no to growth. If you say yes to comfort, you say no to strength. Discipline draws clear boundaries. It decides in advance what matters, so you don't have to decide in moments of weakness. This is important. If you rely on willpower in the moment, you will lose. Willpower is finite. Discipline is designed. You design your environment. You design your schedule. You design your routines so that even on bad days, progress continues. Discipline does not care about your past. It does not ask where you failed before. It does not remind you of mistakes. It only asks one question. What will you do today? Not tomorrow. Not next year. Today. Even a single disciplined action changes the trajectory of the day. And days form weeks. Weeks form years. This is how lives are rebuilt. Not through massive breakthroughs, but through unglamorous consistency. Discipline will not make you popular. It will not make you understood. But it will make you reliable to yourself. And that is rare. When you know you will act regardless of mood, fear loses power. Excuses lose credibility. Doubt becomes background noise. You become someone who can be trusted by yourself. And that trust becomes confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation. Start small, but start today. One task, one promise kept. Do not aim to feel different. Aim to act different. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. And once discipline is in place, something else becomes possible. You can endure pain. That is what comes next. Pain is not a mistake. It is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is not proof that you are failing. Pain is part of the path. Yet most people spend their lives running from it. They numb it. They distract themselves. They try to silence it at any cost. But pain does not disappear when ignored. It waits, and when it returns stronger. Pain has a purpose. It reveals. It shows you where you are weak, where you are attached, where you are afraid. If discipline is the structure of growth, pain is the pressure. Without pressure, nothing changes. Think of the body. Muscle does not grow without strain. Bone does not strengthen without resistance. Endurance does not develop without exhaustion. The same is true for the mind. Avoiding pain keeps you fragile. Enduring pain makes you resilient. This does not mean you seek suffering for its own sake. It means you stop being surprised by it. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you start asking, "What is this asking of me?" There is a difference. One question weakens you, the other sharpens you. Pain demands presence. You cannot escape into the future while in pain. You cannot hide in the past. Pain forces you into the present moment. That is why it feels so intense. And that intensity is information. Most people react to pain emotionally. They panic. They dramatize. They tell themselves stories. This is unbearable. This will never end. I can't do this. These thoughts amplify pain. They turn discomfort into suffering. Pain plus resistance equals suffering. Pain plus acceptance equals endurance. This distinction matters. Endurance is not numbness. It is clarity under pressure. It is the ability to stay steady while everything inside you wants to escape. This is a skill. And like all skills, it must be trained. You train it by staying with discomfort longer than feels comfortable. You train it by not reaching for relief at the first sign of pain. You train it by breathing, observing, and staying. Pain strips away illusions. It removes the stories you tell yourself about who you are. When things are easy, identity is flexible. You can pretend to be disciplined. You can pretend to be calm. Pain exposes the truth. Under pressure, your real character shows. This is not something to fear. This is something to study. When pain arrives, watch yourself. Notice how quickly the mind tries to escape. Notice how the body tenses. Notice the urge to quit. This awareness creates distance, and distance creates control. Pain also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are human, that you have limits, that you are not invincible. But humility is not weakness. It is accuracy. When you understand your limits, you stop wasting energy fighting them. You learn to work with them. Pain teaches patience, not the passive kind, the active kind, the kind that stays committed while time passes slowly. Many goals fail, not because they are impossible, but because they hurt longer than expected. People endure pain for a while, then they assume something is wrong. They quit just before adaptation occurs. But adaptation always lags behind effort. Pain is often the signal that adaptation is near. If you quit too early, you never experience it. There is also a moral aspect to pain. The person who can endure discomfort without becoming bitter gains an inner authority. They stop blaming others. They stop demanding fairness. They become grounded. They know life is difficult, and they are equal to it. This quiet confidence cannot be faked. It is earned. Pain also teaches compassion. When you know pain deeply, you stop judging others so quickly. You understand that everyone is carrying something unseen. This does not make you weak. It makes you clear enough to choose your battles, clear enough to conserve energy, clear enough to act without hatred. Pain is not here to break you. It is here to shape you, but only if you allow it. If you fight pain, it hardens you in the wrong way. If you learn from pain, it strengthens you correctly. The goal is not to eliminate pain. The goal is to become someone who is not controlled by it, someone who can feel deeply and still act deliberately, someone who can suffer and not lose direction. Pain will come, that is certain. What is not certain is how you will respond. You can panic, you can numb yourself, you can complain, or you can endure. And endurance changes everything. Once you realize that pain is survivable, fear loses its grip. You stop avoiding difficult paths. You stop choosing the easy option by default. You understand that discomfort is temporary, but growth is permanent. And with this understanding, something new emerges. Without vision, effort becomes random. You can be disciplined. You can endure pain. But without a clear direction, all that strength scatters. Vision is not fantasy. It is not daydreaming. It is not wishful thinking. Vision is precision. It is the ability to see a future clearly enough that your present actions begin to align with it. Most people confuse vision with goals. Goals are external. Vision is internal. Goals can change. Vision anchors you. Vision answers a deeper question. Who am I becoming? Without this answer, progress feels hollow. You work, you endure, but something feels missing. Vision gives meaning to sacrifice. It tells you why discomfort is worth it. Vision is not loud. It does not shout. It does not demand attention. It is a quiet image you return to when motivation fades. A picture that steadies you when doubt rises. Vision requires honesty, not ambition borrowed from others, not images fed to you by culture. Your vision must be yours. If it is borrowed, it will collapse under pressure. Pain exposes borrowed visions. When effort becomes difficult, false visions lose their appeal. Only what truly matters to you survives. To build vision, you must remove noise. Silence is essential. Not silence from sound, silence from influence. Too many voices distort vision. Everyone has opinions about what you should want. Money, status, recognition. But these are symbols, not substance. Ask yourself a simpler question. What kind of person do I respect? Not admire from a distance. Respect? Respect is a clue. Do you respect consistency, calm under pressure, integrity when no one is watching? These values form the core of vision. Vision is not about outcome alone. It is about conduct, who you are while pursuing the outcome. This matters because outcomes are uncertain. You can do everything right and still fail, but conduct is always within your control. Vision stabilizes you in uncertainty. It reminds you that even if the result is delayed, the direction is correct. Vision also limits you. This is important. Without limits, you chase everything and commit to nothing. Vision tells you what to ignore. It gives you permission to say no. No to distractions, no to shortcuts, no to paths that look attractive but pull you away from who you are becoming. Every strong vision excludes more than it includes. This is not loss. This is focus. Vision must be revisited regularly, not to change it, but to clarify it. As you grow, your understanding deepens. What once seemed important may fade. What once seemed distant may become essential. This is natural. Vision evolves as you do, but the core remains. Vision also carries responsibility. Once you see clearly, you can no longer pretend you don't know. You know when you are off course. You feel it immediately. This discomfort is useful. It pulls you back. Without vision, people drift. They stay busy but go nowhere. They confuse motion with progress. Vision transforms effort into direction. It turns discipline into purpose, pain into investment. When vision is clear, decisions simplify. You stop asking, "Is this hard?" and start asking, "Is this aligned?" Hard things become acceptable. Misaligned things become intolerable. Vision also creates patience. When you see long-term, short-term setbacks lose power, you stop overreacting to daily fluctuations. You think in years, not days. This long view is rare, and rare things are valuable. Take time to define your vision. Not in one sitting, not perfectly, but deliberately. Write it, refine it, return to it. Not to fantasize, but to orient yourself. Because once vision is set, action becomes inevitable. And that is where most people fail. not because they don't know what they want, but because they hesitate to act. That is what comes next. Vision without action is just a thought. A disciplined mind, a tolerance for pain, and a clear direction mean nothing if they are not expressed through action. Action is where theory ends. It is where ideas are tested by reality. Most people understand this intellectually. Few accept it emotionally. Because action carries risk. The moment you act, you expose yourself to failure, judgment, and consequence. As long as you plan, you remain safe. As long as you think, you remain invisible. Action removes that protection. This is why hesitation feels comfortable. But comfort is the enemy here. Action does not require certainty. Waiting for certainty is another form of avoidance. Certainty comes after commitment, not before it. You do not act because you feel ready. You act because the cost of an action becomes unacceptable. Action begins with a decision that closes alternatives. This is critical. As long as you keep escape routes open, your effort remains half-hearted. When action becomes optional, it will always be postponed. Decide, and then remove the option to quit. This is not impulsiveness. This is resolve. Small actions matter more than dramatic ones. People overestimate breakthroughs and underestimate consistency. They wait for the perfect moment to make a bold move. That moment rarely comes. Progress is built through ordinary actions repeated under ordinary conditions. Send the message. Start the task. Show up again. Action builds momentum. Momentum changes how effort feels. At first, action is heavy, every step requires force. But once momentum exists, stopping becomes harder than continuing. This is the point of no return. Not because things are easy, but because identity has shifted. You are no longer someone who tries. You are someone who acts. Action clarifies, it reveals what works and what doesn't. Planning hides mistakes. Action exposes them. This is good. Mistakes made in motion are useful. Mistakes made in thought are imaginary. Action also simplifies emotion. Fear thrives in anticipation. Once you act, fear has less room to operate. Your attention moves from imagined outcomes to immediate tasks. This grounds you. Action teaches accountability. When you act, you own the result. No more abstract excuses, no more vague intentions. Only outcomes. This ownership is uncomfortable at first, but it is empowering, because if you own the result, you can change it. Action also demands sacrifice, time, energy, sometimes reputation. You cannot move forward without letting something go. This is not loss. It is exchange. You exchange comfort for progress, short-term ease for long-term strength. Action does not need to be aggressive. It needs to be consistent. Aggression burns out. Consistency compounds. A single step taken daily outpaces sporadic bursts of effort. Action aligns you with reality. You stop arguing with how things should be. You deal with how they are. This builds competence. Competence builds confidence. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that comes from knowing you can handle what comes next. Eventually, action becomes habit, and habit becomes character. This is the transformation most people never complete. They think change happens in thought. It does not. It happens in behavior. And once behavior changes, identity follows. Action is irreversible in this way. Once you have acted, you cannot return to who you were before. You know too much. You have crossed a line. This is why action is feared, and why it must be taken. Because the final piece is not action alone. It is consistency over time. That is what ties everything together. There is one thing that holds everything together: acceptance, discipline, pain, vision, action. Without this final element, they eventually collapse. Stoicism is not emotional coldness. It is not indifference. It is not suppression. Stoicism is inner stability. It is the ability to remain grounded when circumstances shift, when plans fail, when outcomes disappoint. Life is unpredictable. You can do everything right and still lose. You can prepare carefully and still be surprised. Stoicism prepares you for this reality. It teaches a simple principle. Control what you can. Release what you cannot. This sounds obvious, but very few people live it. Most people fight reality. They argue with events. They resent outcomes. They replay moments they cannot change. This drains energy. Stoicism conserves it. It directs attention inward to choice, response, and conduct. You cannot control the world, but you can control your reaction to it. This is where freedom begins. Stoicism trains emotional restraint, not emotional absence. You still feel fear. You still feel anger. You still feel disappointment. But you do not let these emotions decide your actions. You observe them. You allow them to pass without obeying them. This creates distance, and distance creates power. Stoicism also removes entitlement. You stop expecting life to be fair. You stop expecting people to understand you. You stop expecting recognition. This is not pessimism. It is realism. And realism is strength. When you expect little from the world, you are rarely shaken by it. When you expect everything, you are constantly disappointed. Stoicism builds an inner fortress, not walls that isolate you, but foundations that steady you. Inside this fortress, you are not dependent on praise or protected from criticism. You act according to principle, not reaction. This makes you reliable under pressure. Stoicism also reframes hardship. Difficulty is no longer an interruption. It is part of the training. Every obstacle becomes a test of character, not a punishment. This mindset changes how you experience struggle. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How will I respond?" This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Stoicism does not promise happiness. It promises steadiness, and steadiness outlasts pleasure. Pleasure fades. Steadiness remains. A Stoic life is not flashy. It does not chase admiration. It does not need to prove itself. It is quiet, deliberate, rooted. You wake up. You do your work. You endure difficulty. You act according to your values. And you repeat. This repetition builds something unbreakable. You become someone who cannot be easily manipulated, rushed, or shaken. Someone who stands firm when others collapse. This is the final outcome of the path. Not dominance, not superiority, self-mastery. When you master yourself, the world loses its power over you. You stop reacting blindly. You stop being pulled in every direction. You move with intention. This is the freedom most people search for externally, but it is built internally. One decision at a time. Return to acceptance when things fall apart. Return to discipline when motivation fades. Return to endurance when pain arrives. Return to vision when direction blurs. Return to action when hesitation appears. And anchor it all in Stoicism. This is not a temporary mindset. It is a way of living, calm, focused, unmoved by noise. From this place, you're not waiting for life to change. You are ready for whatever comes, and that readiness is the true measure of strength.